Hi, Maura. How are you?
Shelley, I am great, and thanks for having me on today.
I am so excited to have you here. Thank you for agreeing to come on. I'm just so excited to have you here. And I actually started reading your book, The Art of Happiness, right? Oh my gosh. And
Did you
I
feel
was
sorry
sitting.
for me or laugh?
No, I'm just enjoying it and I'm like writing down and highlighting and going through all of these things. And I just don't want to jump too far ahead. So we're just going to jump right into it and I want to start off by talking about the pivotal moment in your life. What's the story behind it?
Okay, well, the backstory, here I am. You could tell I'm a woman of age. My husband and I had been married for 11 years. I could not get pregnant. When we were on our honeymoon, I thought, I'd love to have a nice sized family. We'll have two of our own. I was thinking we would adopt two children from other countries. Oh, I'm sorry, you could see. I'll probably be doing this through half the interview because of allergies. So
It's all right.
anyway,
It's totally
so
okay.
here I was 10 years later, could not get pregnant. Even particular births that we were, or adoptions from other countries were not working. We have one child after being married for 11 years. And at this point, I had come out of a long corporate management career and I was ready to stay home with her. And then my husband says, okay, Maura, you helped me out with my business, which I did. And he said, would you consider homeschooling her? And even though I thought originally this has got to be the most antisocial thing to do with one child by
Mhm.
homeschooling, our daughter loved it and she was actually exposed to quite a bit. I tell you all of that to keep that in mind that in many ways, after 11 years of not being able to have a child, we have only one. She's a little girl, she's darling, and she's, basically always with me because I'm homeschooling her. But she was
Mhm.
very independent. And so by age 13, I was bringing her out to, or maybe 12 or so, to look at high schools. Um, and she came to me one day and she said, Mom, I'd like to go to college. And I said, College, you're too young. She said, No, we could go to local college here. It's only down the street. She said, I get all my high school and college courses taken up. So here she is now at age 13. And I go from this woman who is really put so much into having a child to all of a sudden she really doesn't need me as much. She doesn't need me for school. She is very much on her own. And I had a life previously. I was always busy. My whole life was busy. We used to have two big dogs. Okay, put that all into this picture and imagine that um, she, at age 15, has finished high school. She's gotten her first 2 years of college done locally, and she's ready to move to Boston. Now, Boston, from where we live in Florida,
Mhm.
is 1,500 miles away. Our only
Mhm.
daughter, my husband says to me, Maura, I cannot bring her there. You're going to have to bring her there yourself because I won't let her stay. But I can remember she was upstairs in her bedroom and her dad is helping her to pack things up. I took one look into her closet, Shelley, and it was empty. And she's 15. She had just turned 16.
Wow.
And I thought, oh my gosh, she's going to be 1,500 miles away. How could I protect her? What is this? It's empty, 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 empty. So if you want to talk empty nest, there I was. But I remember feeling this
Oh
lump go up
no.
in my throat as I looked in the closet and I'm looking. It's like, oh, she's taking everything with her. And I quickly turned away, got into the hallway, and I thought, I'm not doing anything. I'm not saying a word because I know or sense what guilt is like. I grew up with a lot of guilt. And I thought I would never, ever want our daughter, being an only child and dearly loved, ever feeling like she needed to go and live her life but be burdened with guilt. So that was only one story. The second was I
Wow.
brought her up to
I can't
Boston. Well, of course,
imagine. No, because no, and just for a second, because I'm sitting here and our lives are kind of parallel because I have a daughter who is 16 right now. Now she's not going off to school in for another 2 years, but I can't imagine at 16 my daughter leaving to go 1,500 miles. I
I
can't.
know. You know what? She is a very unusual young woman. I think she was brought up as an old soul. I mean, her big thing going out on a Friday night was going to the food store and looking at what kind of food she was going to buy. And her big thing is, can I read 3 books a week? She's just a different kind
Wow.
of a kid. Had she been anything else, she would have never been able to go 15 minutes
Right.
away.
Right.
But it was you know what it's like as a mom. And
Yeah.
my daughter said to me once, with all the worrying I do, she said, "Mom, maybe it was good you only had one." I said, "I don't know if I could take, think about all this worrying." But Shelley, there
Mhm.
was another time too. I'll tell you this. I had brought our daughter up to Boston, and I'm setting her up in her dorm, and she's right in downtown Boston. So in order for me to get back to the airport, I had to get on the T, which would be the metro system. She
Mhm.
leads me there, and I have to get on it, and she's waving goodbye to me. And I'm telling you, and she's fine, she's all smiles, but all I kept thinking was, oh, my heart, I'm going to miss her. But again, I had the same thought. If this were me, Shelley, I would
Mhm.
want I would want my mother, my parents to send me away and say, have a beautiful life. We're here for you all the time. We're always here.
Absolutely.
We'll be up if you need us, but go and have a beautiful life and don't have the shackles of guilt attached to you. So
Absolutely.
that
Right.
was that. It's a dilemma, but and other
Mhm.
mothers have asked me the same thing, but I see my daughter in much the way I would have seen myself many years ago. I would have wanted to go and spread my wings and to know that I could do it with a sense of fullness and not with regret saying, oh, but half of me is still pulled back feeling badly that I left my parents behind.
Right. No, no, I totally understand that. And that's a piece of advice I'm going to hold on to because,
Call
I
me up
was
when it
joking.
happens.
Let me just tell you, I have to, I will, because let me just tell you, I told my husband, wherever she goes, we're moving there. He's like, really, Shelley?
What, you sound like my husband. It's something.
We're relocating. We're going.
Well,
He's
that's
like,
not always a bad
no,
thing.
Shelly, let her go. Let her go. So it's just like, trying to just wrap my mind around that whole process because it's like you feel as if your job as a mom is never done, right? And it's just like when they're leaving to go off, it's just like, okay, so what's next? I mean, did you go through that? Like, what's
Did
next?
I?
What do I
Did
do?
I? Because I told you I went from a corporate career and I was very, very, I mean, it
Mhm.
exhausted me, but I put everything into it. I had our daughter. I put everything into that because not only was I teaching her, but I was raising her to be a future, adult in many ways.
Yeah.
So it was social, it was everything. And she's just a darling girl. And so what happened, this was what was strange for me because I was always busy and engaged, dogs, we had so much going on, helping my husband with business that I could remember one day sitting down outside on our lanai. And now you hear the old expression, people who are um, twiddling their thumbs. I don't even know if people use that expression. They'll say, what do you do? Well, I'm just twiddling my thumbs. I was literally out in our lanai twiddling my thumbs and I thought, I'm a twiddler of the thumbs. I have nothing to do. I honestly was like, what do I do now? And I'll tell you, I had friends, women friends, who were
Mhm.
obviously the same age, and they were at that same point where maybe they had a couple of children and they were facing that it's like a midlife crisis, it's an identity crisis, it's a time crisis, it's a focus and an attention crisis. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do? Because I wasn't needed, I
Right.
wasn't as necessary. And so it was very challenging. But I will tell you this there was always something in me that when I would look at my daughter, just as much as I'd want her to go away to school and feel very free and free to pursue her things and never have any guilt, I also didn't want her to look up to me as the next generation to think, is this is what I'm going to be like when I'm 50, that I have no life and I'll be
Yeah.
depressed like my mother. And I was,
Right. Yeah.
and
No,
so
I understand. Mhm.
it put me at a place, and actually I had several dreams. I didn't even mention this to you earlier, but I actually had several dreams. I mean, several dreams where I felt like God Himself was calling and pulling me out of closets, pulling me out of the dark, calling me down onto the street. And I didn't know what to do with them, but I eventually realized it was time for me to get out. Get out. And what did that mean and what did it look like? So I will tell you, in a sense, where some of it started. And this brings my book to mind. Our daughter was still in junior college, if you want to call it that. And she called me one day from school and she said, Mom, they're giving a class here, or they're offering a class on intro to jazz. And I said, oh, Kaylee, that's wonderful. Are you going to sign up for it? She said, Mom, I've had 7 years of dance. You're going to sign up for it. And I didn't say anything, but she read my mind and she said, Mom, she knew I was thinking, I'm too old or
Like
whatever.
there's no way,
And she said,
right?
You every time you'd come and watch me dance, you'd always tell me that you wanted to dance when you were growing up and never had the chance. And she said, this is not going to be 5-year-olds in tutus. She said, you can do it. These are adult people. And she said, it's an intro class. And so, Shelley, that was one of several things that helped kind of really push me out of my comfort zone, force me out of mindsets that I had either acquired when I was growing up or developed on my own later on in life. And I took my daughter's advice because I, again, didn't want her to say, oh, you know, when I'm 50, that means I can't grow up because my mother never did anything new. I
Mhm.
wanted her to see me trying something new. So I signed up for this class. And I remember I put myself way in the back, because I thought the younger people, they're there, they need the grade, they need to be up front. So I'm way in the back. Now I am petrified. I don't know what's going on. I have never, ever been coordinated. There's certain skills I have, dancing and coordination was not among them. And I'm telling you something, I was so bad in that class that people didn't laugh with me, they laughed at me. I
Oh
couldn't do simple
no.
things like walk across the stage because I didn't know how to move my arms. I didn't know how to articulate different things.
Right.
I could remember drive. It was a long drive to where I was going at this other campus, and I'd come home at night. Some nights I'd be laughing at myself, like, "Oh, I did a little something." Other nights my eyes would be stinging, and I'd be saying to myself, "Is it possible I'm this dumb? Am I as dumb as a doorknob? I can't figure out the most simple things." I mean, I would
Oh.
literally go into such a state of fear. I couldn't figure out what was going on, and I kept doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. I don't want to spoil the book for you, but I did this for a couple of years, even as our daughter was continuing to grow up. But it was for me. For me, I had to deal
Right.
with so much of the mindsets that I had acquired. I had to deal with humiliation.
That's a big one.
You can't believe it. I ended up, and then I advanced myself into the, what would you call it, the intermediate classes, and they were actually pretty good at this school. And then I signed up for not one, but two performance programs. So I was part of a troupe, and they said, Maura, don't worry about it. Wait, don't worry about it because everybody gets something to do at their level. It was an 11-minute dance the first time I was on stage with all these chairs that kept moving around and people kept on disappearing and reappearing.
Wow.
And I'm telling you something, I just about destroyed that 11-minute performance before we went live. And that's in my book. But so all of these things I went through, so you could see the kind of like the adventure. I'm doing something I always wanted to do, and I did since the time I was little. And I saw American Bandstand on TV, and I saw teenage kids dancing to music, and I thought, oh, that's what I want to do. And here I am at 50, and I am worse than worse. But I never gave up. And so here, fast forward, our daughter's in Boston, and I happened to call her during the second year, I guess, that I had done this on stage performance. And I said, Kaylee, guess what? I said, I did another performance, and I said, I didn't ruin it. And I'm waiting for her to, I'm waiting for her to say, yay, mom. And I said, and I'm surprised. I said, well, aren't you surprised? And this is what she said to me. So now you get almost a role reversal of the child giving advice to the parents. And she said, and I said, aren't you surprised? And she said, no, mom. I said, well, why not? And she said, because it was something. And this, everybody who's listening today, please listen in. She said, Mom, it was something you always wanted to do. I knew you could do it. You
Wow.
always wanted to do it. And so think how interesting that is for any of us. If there's something, and in my case, I wanted to do this when I was 2 years old, and now it's 48 years later, I'm age 50, and I'm just trying with all this mental baggage, not to mention age and all these other things. Um, and yet, I knew somewhere, Shelley, that there was going to be a breakthrough in my life. There was going to be a freedom in my life. The idea of being able to walk across a room and not feel like I was clunky, or lacking in
Right.
grace, which is the
Mhm.
main reason why I wanted our daughter to take dance lessons. I thought, oh, she'll be able to walk across the room and feel like she's not tripping over herself. But I knew somewhere that there was going to be something in me that would be set free as a result of doing it. Even though it hurt me, I felt like an absolute idiot. And I kid you not, when you read the book, the rest of the book, You will laugh with me, you might wanna cry with me. It reads like a bad episode of I Love Lucy, but at the end of the story, you'll say to yourself, "If this woman can learn how to dance, I could run for president of the United States." And I actually had somebody tell me that because I was not a good candidate. So it was a really good thing for me to do and to launch into, even as I was losing everything about what I used to be and had at the time no idea of what I was going to do for the future of my life. And that was just one aspect of it. But it helped gear me up and prepare me for other things that I would do in the future, including now.